Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ariana, but you can call me Ari. And yes, hold on, wait a minute. It's been a minute. It's been a weird summer. Not good, well, not bad, but whatever. I'm here today. I hope you've had a good summer. I hope you've had some time to rejuvenate, relax. So today I want to talk about The Queen of Sugar Hill by Reshonda Tate Billingsley. The Queen of Sugar Hill is a novel, a historical novel about the life of Hattie McDaniel. And it specifically follows her life from the moment she wins her Oscar to the end of her life. Hattie McDaniel was the first Black person to win an Oscar for her role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind in 1940. Gone with the Wind is about 3.5-hour movie, essentially a Civil War drama. We have the main girl, who is Scarlett O'Hara. She's a Southern belle who lives on a plantation, ingenue, yada yada yada, following everything about who and what she does. And okay, but what's important is Hattie McDaniel. Hattie McDaniel carried that movie. She was the backbone, the nurturer, the caretaker, but she was such a prominent, prolific character in not just that role, not just Hollywood, but in America in general, which turns out to be a problem not only for white audiences, but for Black audiences as well. So before I go too far, let's just kind of talk a little bit about Reshonda Tate Billingsley as an author. So this is her first historical fiction novel. It's like her debut of historical fiction. She has written 54 novels in her lifetime thus far, and counting. That's insane to me. And something that I really love about her writing is that she is so good with dialogue, creating intimacy, creating tension between characters. Her writing is also just very digestible, honest, and relatable. When she's talking about her novel, she plugged in all the facts, had that all laid out, and then what she did was fill in the information that's like intimate conversations, things that wouldn't have been recorded between her, Hattie McDaniel, and someone she may have been close to. My point is, she has not altered history. So the novel starts out at the ceremony. Hattie McDaniel almost wasn't even allowed to come in. The producer, David Selznick, had to pretty much fight for her presence. And even when she was allowed, she had to sit way in the back. She was so far back that the music that plays underneath your announcement, well, that music had long ended before she even got up there, and that just proves how far back she was. After the ceremony, she was not allowed to go into the club. Of course, the cast ended up going to a whites only club, and she was not allowed to go in and celebrate like the rest of the cast, especially knowing that she was the first Black American to win an award, to accomplish something of this magnitude in Hollywood is insane. But she has a friend named Clark Gable. Clark Gable was also in Gone with the Wind. He was a part of the cast, and he is a longtime friend of Hattie McDaniel. So he tries to stand up for her and tries to get her in, of course, to no avail. So what does this tell us? It tells us that no matter how much she accomplished, she still wasn't seen as good enough to even celebrate, to even sit with the cast. So as the novel depicts, Hattie McDaniel continues to get roles for being a servant, for being a maid. The roles and the lines are honestly arguably more demeaning than her role in Mammy. It's as if she's taken 10 steps back. And Black audiences still see her as a sellout. But what people at that time hadn't realized was how much Hattie McDaniel was trying to change the system from within. At that time, there were actors who refused roles. Of course, Hollywood went on and found someone else who would. And those who refused got less work, got paid less, and had to find other sources of income. What Hattie McDaniel was doing was trying to work the system from within. She spent a lot of time negotiating scripts. In the movie Gone with the Wind, Hattie McDaniel was able to drop the N-word from the script. And she continued to do that with her other roles. She continued to try to finesse. However, it's a fine line. I understand myself as an actor that, especially as an actor who is a Black woman, that it's easy for me to seem difficult or demanding or hard to work with, especially when I stand up for what is right and for what my boundaries are. So she had to find ways to navigate this without losing her position in Hollywood. And of course, it wasn't the same for white counterparts. They could show up drunk, belligerent, unprepared, late, and still have a better chance at success in working full-time than someone who was Black trying to advocate for themselves and their boundaries, right? So that was what Hattie McDaniel was up against. And people didn't really see that. People only saw what she was doing, right, in these roles. And they weren't understanding that this was her life. This was her passion. This was her career. And so in response to this, Hattie McDaniel is quoted saying, "I'd rather make $700 a week playing a maid than $7 a day being a maid." Hattie McDaniel was a maid at one point to make ends meet, and so was her mother, and so were so many Black people during that time and before, and still are. At that time, there were people who had no other option to do just that. Other people were able to see themselves. And she also says, well, what exactly did you want me to do? Who exactly should I have played? Should I have been Scarlett O'Hara? Should I have been the leading lady? She did what she had to do in order to work and do what she loved. Unfortunately, the NAACP didn't see it that way. The president of the NAACP, Walter White, a white passing male, was basically disgusted by the roles that Hattie McDaniel was accepting, pretty much calling her out as what we don't want to see in America. And so one evening, Hattie McDaniel is invited to a convention at an NAACP convention. He goes on to make this speech at the convention saying, we need something that's forward thinking, right? We need something better than the Mammy. We don't want to do that anymore. We're out with that. We need someone like Lena Horne. Lena Horne comes onto the scene. Lena Horne is a actor who is a singer, was a singer, dancer, activist, actress, all those things. And she was pretty much used as a pawn to push Hattie McDaniel out, right? They kind of set these two women against each other. Now we've got colorism on the scene, okay? So rightfully so, Hattie McDaniel is frustrated. Reminder, a lot of what I'm pulling out is from what I read from this novel and a little bit from some interviews, right? So whatever research you do on your own time, do you. But I'm pulling information from what Reshonda Tate Billingsley has wrote. So Hattie McDaniel grew more frustrated and she starts to write letters, right? She writes letters to press, she writes letters to the NAACP, essentially reiterating what she's been trying to say since the role of Mammy. She is doing the best she can, and ultimately she just wants to work, and she is fighting for more. She is trying her hardest to make change in her own way. And she is doing the best she can with what she has. And so her life is kind of an uphill battle, right? There's a lot about her life that I'm not going to mention here. I could talk about this for hours, but there's a lot in the novel that I'm not going to mention because I don't want to spoil it, but also I could talk about it for hours. And so she goes through a series of all kinds of events, right? She has different husbands. She's had some relationships with people who are less than trustworthy, who are just out for her money. I want to talk about one specific change that I did not know Hattie McDaniel had anything to do with. And this particular change is going to answer the question of, what is the Queen of Sugar Hill? Why is Reshonda Tate Billingsley calling her the Queen of Sugar Hill? Well, Sugar Hill was a rich neighborhood, an affluent neighborhood where a lot of actors and artists and affluent people lived, right? Mansions, beautiful homes. And Hattie McDaniel has now made enough and done enough in her life that she can afford to live there amongst her other friends who also have started to move into the neighborhood. Well, that causes quite a stir for the white neighbors, and they are calling her out and asking for all of them to move out on the basis of racial covenants. Racial covenants was established around the 1920s, and it prohibited anyone who wasn't white from living in certain areas, right? So if the home was previously owned by white people, then anyone who was not white was not allowed to live there. And on that basis, Hattie McDaniel and her artist friends almost lost their homes. And Hattie McDaniel fought, right? She fought the case and won. And the case went on to the Supreme Court, and it was struck as unconstitutional. And because of her, housing restrictions were null and void. And I did not know that. I did not know that she had that influence on racial injustice, especially when it comes to the housing market. I had no idea. She was also the first Black woman to be on the radio. And mentioning all those amazing things that I think the majority of us don't know that she did, it makes me think about how in the interview that Reshonda Tate Billingsley was in, someone had mentioned how you can be trained, you can be skilled and educated in your craft and still be seen as inferior. You can be a Black woman who at the time is called on to nurture, to nurse, to take care of the white family and their children, and still be seen as untrustworthy and incapable and less than human. It's no secret that Hattie McDaniel did a lot of amazing things, not just for Hollywood. The draw for me in this novel was, I'm an actor myself. I was drawn to the novel knowing that Hattie McDaniel was the same as me and looked like me and was built thickly and wide hips, and she took up space literally and figuratively, and that was something that drew me into this novel. This novel is not just about taking artists seriously, right? It's about taking Black women seriously. It's about respecting the boundaries, the work, the life, the energy that Black women put in, not only to films, but in the world. And so it's about knowing that we've got something to say and we know exactly what we're talking about when we say it. And that the generations that exist now are here to just continue doing that work. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. There's a lot about this novel that I haven't mentioned because I want you to have the experience to read it on your own, or if you so choose to continue doing some research on Hattie McDaniel or other artists during that time. And I encourage you to do that. I hope that this video inspires you to look into some history. There are still video clips of Hattie McDaniel's work on YouTube, so if you're interested in doing some research and kind of understanding what she was doing at the time, I encourage you to do that as well. I really enjoyed reading it. I really enjoy breaking down videos. If you like videos like this, and if there's a novel that you're interested in me kind of taking a deeper dive and talking about, I'd love to do that. I'm thinking about doing it with Parable of the Sower because there's so much to unpack there, especially it being 2024 and the relevancy of that book. So let me know if there's anything you'd like me to take a closer look at. Otherwise, again, thank y'all so much for watching. Thank you for the continued support. I hope to see you in the next video, and vote Kamala Harris 2024.